you touched on long-term structural unemployment. As regards Michael Spence's work, that'll clarify for you quickly where I'm going. We have created, in the past 20 years, the vast majority of jobs have been service jobs. A very small percentage have been science, technology, engineering, and math. We know that we have income disparities that are growing, and that we also know that every job is not the same. We could have zero unemployment and still people could be struggling paying their bills. What do you think is the severity of our, in a global sense, that we are increasingly moving away from those things we need to invest in to increase our global competitiveness in terms of innovation, tradable goods, and that type of thing? How big a factor do you think the unemployment rate that we are seeing right now that seems to be so intractable is a function of us not being as competitive and as skilled as we need to be as a people? For both of you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it's a substantial part of our problem. It's both a short-term problem and a long-term problem. I think people aren't getting jobs now. American firms list 3.5 million job vacancies, saying they don't have workers applying with the skills they need. They're not all computer programmers, as Vice Chair Klobuchar mentioned, welders, tool die people, et cetera. That's partly a problem of our K through 12 education system, and partly a problem of the opportunities, private and governmental, to retrain yourself when you need to retrain. As I mentioned earlier, we need to modernize these job training programs. Austin used the phrase, hate to see us cut investments in that. Well, I think we could get a lot better out of it for less money and actually help people a lot more than we do now. So I think that spending shouldn't be the metric. The metric ought to be how many people get jobs at the end. So I think it's a serious problem. I think in the long term it's a larger problem. As Austin said, there's still sizable cyclical unemployment, but as that comes down, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years to closer to full employment, what remains will be primarily structural. I also think there's a tendency in many firms, when they're hit with really rapid, sharp adjustments, that they make deeper cuts, including stuff that's accumulated they haven't gotten around to, with all due respect. And therefore, they tend to shed a lot. In recent times, they've shed a lot of labor, more than they might have in previous downturns for the same cyclical component, and they've pushed their remaining workers to retool and train and become more productive. So I think all that's interactive. I think there's something major to it.
I think it's a major issue. I don't think that I think it's not appreciated that the U.S.'s competitiveness problem has not principally been on the productivity side or the quality of our workforce. We remain, really, of all the major economies, the most productive workforce in the world. And we only got more productive during this recession. So I think the long-run competitiveness of the U.S. economy is pretty strong. I think we've gone through a heavy cyclical unemployment period, and I think what Professor Spence has highlighted, and it is something that we all ought to think about, is there are a lot of different sectors and different jobs that in some sense have never faced foreign competition that have become tradable goods. And that leads to a lot of tough adjustments, and we will have to, and we should make quality investments. I think Professor Boskin's point is well taken, that let's do what those things that will get people jobs and sustain them in the jobs. The advance of technology, however, let's not overly dreadfulize it, if that's a word. If they had said in 1920 how many phone lines would exist today, they would have said that's flat out impossible because every man, woman, and child in America would need to be a telephone operator. The fact that they don't need to be telephone operators didn't put everyone out of a job. Gradually, as we trained for other things, we got more skill. We just shifted into other sectors greatly to our benefit and greatly to our income. And there's no reason we couldn't do that again.
Thank you.